of the most important things we need to learn is how to park our SNO-GO safely. The first thing you'll do is unclasp your carabiner from your belt. Next, you'll back it up out of skier and foot traffic, and you want to lean the bike over onto its edges until those are engaged. At this point, it cannot slide down the hill, and it looks good. So, navigating flat terrain is a process much like riding a scooter. Simply step your foot into the binding on the downhill side of the bike, and you'll use your other foot to propel yourself forward. What we don't want to do is hop off our bike and walk next to it. When we do this, that takes up the space of two persons in the lift lines. So we want to be considerate of everybody else using the resorts and make sure that we play nice with all the lift operators. So straddle your bike and scoot it on into line. To start learning how to maneuver our bike going downhill, we'll first want to practice on flat terrain. To turn a SNO-GO, the process is actually very simple. You simply need to lean on your handlebars to initiate a turn. To turn to the right, lean to the right. To turn to the left, lean to the left. Practice this a bunch of times till you feel comfortable holding your body square over the bike, staying relaxed through your hips, your knees, and your ankles, and simply waiting on the front ski, leaning over from your left palm to your right palm. To get started, we're either going to ride the magic carpet at a resort or hike about 20 yards up a beginner slope, which is marked by the green circle on any trail map. We'll want to make sure that we go high enough just to get a little speed, but we certainly don't want to go all the way to the top or be riding a chairlift at this time. Now that we're at the top, what we're going to do is identify the fall line. And the fall line can be described as the path of least resistance down the slope. If you were to basically roll a ball without pushing it, which way would it go? So if there's a depression in the slope is going to have a fall line that trajects towards that depression. All right, so as we get started, first things, we're going to grab both handlebars, apply pressure to lean through your palm. As we mentioned, leaning is very important to turning. You don't want to be moving your hips around side to side. It's very important to keep your hips, your knees, and your ankles aligned. So to start, we're going to come off at a 45-degree angle. It looks like the fall line goes a little bit across the slope here. That way, when we're at this 45-degree angle, we're really not moving very fast just yet. At this point, we're going to begin to make what we call a half C turn. We'll point our bike 45 degrees across the hill, and as we go across the hill, we're going to lean, pressure into your inside palm, and that again is the basic way to turn the bike. Instead of turning the handlebars, we're just going to lean, okay? So I'm going to kick off here, put one foot down into the binding, downhill foot first, give a little push with my uphill foot, off we go with our first half C turn, stepping in, 45-degree angles to the hill, leaning on the inside handlebar, uphill, until we come to a complete stop. One thing to remember, if your hips sink below your heels or behind your heels, you're leaning too far back. So apply that pressure back to the palm and you'll feel your ski edges engage. So here we'll be 45 degrees to the fall line on this side. We'll just step out, flip our bike around, and we'll practice a half C turn going the other way. Same thing, step in with your downhill foot, 45 degrees, push off, pressing on your palm until you come to a complete stop. We'll do this multiple times until we feel that we have complete confidence with our edges engaging. This is crucial to then the next process where we will link a turn together. What we'll do is create what we call an inverted question mark in the slope. So we'll come straight, we'll start our first C turn, but then we'll commit to rolling over our edges and finishing the other direction. So to begin the inverted question mark, we're going to start at the exact same 45-degree angle to manage our speed. It's more important now to commit to leaning on your front handlebars. This will apply more pressure as you transfer weight from your uphill ski edge to your downhill ski edge, converting your turn. Again, it's all about leaning and putting pressure into the palms on the handlebars and maintaining square hips, knees, and ankles. This one is all about commitment, and from here, we start progressing quite quickly. Uphill edge engage, and we roll and we lean into the other handlebar until we come to a complete stop. We'll do that again. Make sure that feels right. So we'll go partially down the hill on our 45-degree turn, leaning into that uphill edge, roll over our handlebar, pressing into that palm until we come to a complete stop. We'll want to practice that in both directions, and then we can start linking turns throughout the beginner slopes. So our inverted question marks look great. We're engaging our edges throughout the slope, and we're coming to a complete stop. Once we've managed this in both directions, it's time to link all the turns together and make some S-turns. We'll choose a flatter part of the beginner terrain to start working on this, and we can take it all the way to the bottom once we've linked a couple together. There are some essential things you don't want to do while riding a SNO-GO. Let's cover these briefly. First, you'll never want to actually overturn your handlebars to initiate a turn. Unlike riding a bicycle, you're better off simply leaning onto the handlebar to initiate your turn. Essential don't number 2. As you're riding, make sure that your hips stay in front of your heels. If you sit your hips back behind your heels, it releases any weight off the front of the ski and makes it very difficult to maneuver the bike. So again, never put your hips below your heels until you've gained sufficient experience to make constant carves throughout an intermediate slope. Another essential thing you don't want to do is point your bike straight down the hill. When you point your bike straight down the hill as you learn, it can pick up speed very quickly. So always start at a 45-degree angle so that you're cutting across the slope at the beginning of a turn. The last and essential thing you don't want to do is remove your foot from the binding while in motion going downhill. If you pull your foot out from the binding, you have no ability to put pressure on your ski edge and stop.